Hey everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today we're going to be looking a little bit at the passive, which could also be called the passive voice. Okay, so the passive is an excellent verb structure that every single English learner really does need to learn and understand clearly how to use. So let's go through this video together. And we will hopefully at the end of this video understand clearly the passive voice. So let's have a look at this sentence, okay? So I drank 2 cups of tea this morning. So this sentence is what we would call an active sentence, okay? It's active because we have our subject, which in this case is I, which goes at the beginning. We have our verb, which in this case is drank, which is the past simple of the verb to drink. And then we have our object, which is 2 cups of tea this morning. Okay? So this is an active sentence because the subject is what we put first at the beginning of our sentence. Okay? Now, this sentence is obviously giving us a lot of information. The information that we know is that there are 2 cups of tea and we know who is doing the action. Okay, so the action is being done by I. Okay, so I am doing the action of the drinking of the cups of tea. Okay, so the idea is in the passive tense, the main focus isn't on who is doing the action, but rather what is being done. So if we want to know the action that is being done, instead of needing to know the person or the thing doing the action, that is when we use the passive voice or the passive. So let's transform this sentence into a passive sentence. So can we see what happens here? 2 cups of coffee were drunk this morning. So remember, in an active sentence, our subject goes at the beginning. And remember, we said that our subject was I, and the object of our sentence was the 2 cups of coffee. Now, have a look at this structure. Okay, so there is a couple of differences that we need to focus on. Number 1, well, the order of the sentence. So now what goes first? Well, we now put our object first. So the first thing we need to do in a passive sentence is find the object of our sentence. So the object is basically the action being done. Okay? So the thing that is being done to something. Okay, so the something basically. So our something here is 2 cups of coffee. Then what happens is we then need to put in the verb. Now, remember our first sentence. What did I tell you that the sentence was in? We had the verb drunk, which is in the past simple. Now, the passive is formed by 2 things. Okay, the verb to be, obviously conjugated and changed depending on the tense that we're talking about, and the tense that we need. So I will explain that a bit clearer as we go on through the video, but we need the verb to be plus the verb in the tense that we want to change. So let me just go back here very quickly to our first sentence. I drank 2 cups of tea this morning. So what tense are we talking about? Well, it is the past simple, okay? So drank is the past simple, very, very clearly. So how do we transform that then into the passive? Well, very simple. If we're talking about the past simple in our sentence, we need to transform the verb to be in the past simple, okay? So in this case, our past simple of to be is, was, or were. And as we are talking about 2 cups of coffee, then we have to use were, okay? And then we take our verb that we used in our active sentence, which is drunk, okay? In this case it was drank, which is the past simple, okay? And then we put it into the past participle, okay? Which again is the third column for those who studied columns. So we now have were drunk, okay? So the verb to be in the past simple, because our active sentence was a past simple sentence, plus the verb that we're using in our sentence in the past participle or third column. Now, interestingly enough, this sentence doesn't have a subject. Well, what happens to the subject then in a passive sentence? Well, this is where the passive is used, what I explained before, because the reason we use the passive normally, or one of the main reasons, is because it's when we want to focus more on the action rather than the person or the thing doing that action. So if we don't know who's done the action, or if we just don't really care, we're not bothered about it, we don't have to include the subject. Now, let's say, for example, we do want to include the subject because, hey, it's always interesting to add more information. So that's very simple. Again, we go back to our sentence before, and our subject was I. So when you do an action, or an action is being done, we always do an action by someone or by something. So the by is very important, okay? So 2 cups of coffee were drunk this morning. Who did the drinking? Well, I did. But we can't say in English by I. No, we can't, because that doesn't make sense. So instead, we say by me. So 2 cups of coffee were drunk this morning by me, okay? But again, we don't need to use the subject, because the idea of a passive sentence is to focus more on the object of our sentence rather than the subject. So we're going to go on a little bit further, and I will explain this a bit clearer over the next couple of slides. So take a good look. Right. Fun grammatical English learners, okay? We do need, unfortunately, again, we have a table, and you do need to focus on this and learn this by heart, okay? For you to be able to form the passive tense, this is your go-to table, okay? So we have all of our tenses from the present simple all the way to the future perfect. We have our active sentence, so I've taken this from an example, so we're going to use cake, so I make a cake, and then we see how it turns into the passive sentence. So the same idea as always, okay? Present simple sentence in an active, well, we need our subject, which is I. Make, okay, which is going to be our verb for today. So make is the present simple, and our object, which is a cake, okay? So I make a cake, okay? So as again in a passive sentence, what do we need to do? Well, the first thing we need to do is find our object, okay? In this case, it's a cake. So the first thing we do is we move the object, and now it becomes the first part of our sentence, okay? So a cake. Now, what tense are we talking about? Well, this sentence is the present simple. So again, we need the verb to be in the present simple. So the present simple of to be is am, so I am, you are, he, she, it is. So because the cake is it, we then have to transform the verb to be to is, okay? A cake is. And last but not least, we take the verb from the active sentence, and then we transform it into the past participle or the third column, okay? Make, made, made. Make is the verb, made is the past simple, and made is, in this case, a past participle as it is irregular. And can you see what I was talking about with the subject? So here we have the I, and now it's not important, it's not necessary to know who, but if we do want to include it, we can by putting by me, and we use the brackets because again, it's not a compulsory or necessary thing to do, okay? This little thing here can also be called an agent. So whenever you see the word agent, when we're talking about the passive, we are talking about the thing or the person doing the action. Okay, so if it ever says to include an agent, this is what you need to do. So this is your inclusion of an agent. Okay. Present continuous, the same thing applies. I am making a cake. We have the verb to be plus the verb in ing. Simple formula of the present continuous. Again, we do the same thing. We have to find our object, which is a cake. We put a cake at the beginning of the sentence. Then, as it's the present continuous, we do something a little bit different from the present simple, because in the present continuous, what is the present continuous of the verb to be? Well, we then say it's I am being, he is being, or you are being. So we have to then put in the verb to be in the correct tense, and because our sentence is in the present continuous, this has to be in the present continuous plus the past participle of the verb made. Okay, or of the verb make, and it becomes made. So this is the idea for all of our tenses. So whatever tense you have in your active sentence, you can easily refer to this table and transform it into a passive sentence easily. Okay, right, so let's continue a little bit longer. Have a go. Okay, right, so there are a couple of things that are important to note when we're talking about the passive, okay? One of those important things is when we have verbs with two objects, okay? So some verbs that have two objects can make two different active sentences, okay? And so two different passive sentences can be transformed as well, can be made. So, for example, the verb to give, okay? Here you've got two sentences. He gave me a book, or he gave me the book. These are both active sentences. Now, you can choose either of the two objects to be the subject of the passive sentence. So, let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, can we see what we have done here? Okay, the book has become our object. We have our verb was given to me by him. Okay, so let's go back to that sentence. So he gave me a book, or he gave me the book. Okay, who's doing the action? Well, he is. He is the one doing the action. Who is receiving the action, or what is happening? Well, the book and is being given to me. So there are two subjects there. Okay, you've got the book and you have me. So you can do it either way. You can change this a little bit around. So the book was given to me. So here we've got the object to the book. Okay, so we've decided the book is going to go first. The book, then we have our verb, and then we have the rest of our sentence, which is to me. So the book was given to me, and then we have our agent by him. Or we can decide that in our previous sentence, okay, me can now be an object. So we then turn into I. So I was given the book by him. Okay, so both of these are perfectly correct. Either one is an acceptable passive tense. Okay, sentence. Right, let's continue. And I'm going to explain the next part of this video. So I'm going to leave it here for you. So I hope this video has helped you a little bit with the passive tense and how to form it, the basics of how to form. Please have a go and revise and memorize the table, because it's extremely useful for you to understand it. And what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, get a pen, and have a go at transforming these sentences into the passive voice or the passive itself. Okay? Comment down below your answers, and I will then send you the correct answers and you can have a go and see just how much you've understood from this passive video. Okay? Anyway, have a great day. Lovely to speak to you guys, and hopefully you'll return soon to this YouTube channel. Bye-bye.